Yeah.
And then you have Sam Rockwell, who is again playing this character you just do not know where he is coming from, what he's doing. By the end of the film, you don't even know why he committed any of the killings in the film. Like he says at one point, he did it in order to spur on the writing of Marty, but he lies so many times in this movie, and by the end of the film it really doesn't make sense that that's really what it, to me at least, it didn't make sense that that was really why he was doing it. At first I thought he was doing it just to get back at the crime boss because of his girlfriend, but then he killed his girlfriend. So
Yeah.
maybe he just really hated that guy, or maybe he really was trying to help Marty. We don't know what's going on in that guy's mind, and
Yeah.
often with psychopaths you don't. And
Yeah.
it was a really consistently deranged and yet hilarious performance. It's like if Amir from the Jake and Amir web series was a psychopathic killer. Yeah.
Those are two great analogies for that character. I didn't even think about that because
Amir was the
I,
one I thought of first. The cable guy just came to me just now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just like Billy said. I'm just used to Sam Rockwell as the fun, awkward guy. He was also in B Handing in Spokane as the awkward hotel clerk and had like the best monologue in the show. So I knew he could act like really well. The thing is, I also, I always felt like he was always playing kind of a facet of himself. I understand why people call him the new Christopher Walken because he
Really?
kind of is. Like he's kind of growing into it, but I honestly think that overall as a technical actor, he's a
Mm-hmm.
lot better than Walken.
I
Like
totally agree.
Walken is always going to be great because he's such a unique persona, and acting is about the uniqueness you yourself bring to the role. But Rockwell just like every time I think I have him pinned down, like, I mean, I'm not saying his performance in Iron Man 2 was, like, Oscar-worthy by any chance, but it certainly helped me in moments where the movie was kind of floundering when he showed up on screen. It's like, oh, okay, this guy's here to liven me up and make it a little bit better. I now feel lively inside when this movie was sucking it out.
It
Uh,
certainly made a very different Justin Hammer from Ephraim Zimmelboss Jr. So. He's the guy who
yeah,
played the character
yeah,
in the 90s. Yeah.
yeah. Although, okay, before we move on to any of the other main characters, one thing I love about this movie is how McDonough is aware of his own shortcomings as a writer. Like, most writers,
Yeah.
they try to ignore it or hide it.
Yeah.
Like, there's this great scene in it, it's like about two-thirds of the way through the movie, I think, where Christopher Walken is reading Marty's script, and he says, the female characters suck. They're all, like, gonna get shot.
So good!
Or like they're all shot, or they're gonna get shot, and he's just like, I guess I'm saying it's a tough role for like,
It's a tough role for
and it's
women.
like
Is
true
that,
because
yes,
one
but
thing McDonough has
I
never
know
done
it's a
is
tough role for women, but most women I know can string together a sentence.
yeah, just like he points out his own things, but he does it with such charm and panache that it's kind of like, I can laugh at that and I don't
Yeah.
mind because
And
But yeah, I like the cast overall is really good. Even like the characters I don't remember the names of. Like I really like the henchman, like Woody Harrelson's henchman. Like that guy amuses me. Probably because he shares he has some great lines, and his two like biggest scenes where he gets to talk is between Woody Harrelson having a nervous breakdown and Christopher Walken just being an ignorant twat, basically, because he's just doesn't want to live anymore at that point. I actually must say, though, I feel bad for Colin Farrell in this because while all of the characters have great things, I feel like his performance is going to take a couple viewings to really appreciate because...
Well, he's more the straight man in the scenario, so...
Yeah, well, he's a straight man, and he's sharing scenes with Sam Rockwell and Christopher Walken, which for any actor is going to be hard to, like, come off and like, be remembered. I mean, he has some great moments, usually because he's freaking out, but
one of the greatest
we've seen Colin Farrell do comedy in Martin McDonagh's last movie,
In Bruges,
which I think made Billy at least remark Farrell was a decent actor.
Yeah, I didn't think he was a good actor before that because of the Fright Night remake, but after that movie, I was like, oh, okay, he's good. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, one of the greatest lines in the film for me was when I don't remember how it's worded exactly, but Sam Rockwell talking about you're cursed from birth. You're a writer and you're Irish. You're cursed to be an alcoholic. That was that was absolutely hilarious and sadly accurate. Um,
That hurts me on a personal level. I like my buddy Forrest. I went to see the movie with my buddy Forrest, and at that line, he simply turns to me and does like one of those little "It's okay, honey" on my wrist. And I'm like, shh, just get me. That's true. I like to write and I like to drink, so it may be a problem someday.
Maybe a problem. We'll jump off that bridge when we come to it, as they say in City Slickers. But so I think I think we got the point. Christopher Walken is Christopher Walken, but good Christopher Walken, not bad Christopher Walken. Sam Rockwell is the best he's ever been. Colin Farrell is kind of underutilized because he's sort of a straight man. He's not playing like a crazy character like in Bruges, but he does come off as nice. And frankly, I haven't heard a good Irish accent in a long time. So for me, it was nice to hear that again. But yeah, I don't have a man crush on Colin Farrell. And then who else? Oh yeah, Woody Harrelson was reinvented himself. I have no idea what that guy's going to do, but my gosh, is he doing good. But
Yeah.
so I think we can move on to the story, talking about the story a little bit here. Because you started to talk about it a little bit when you're like pointing out his own shortcomings as an author. So do you want to start riffing on the story a little bit, and I'll come in later?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, having read a little bit of McDonagh's work before, this one reminded me most, like in Bruges, felt like he was kind of riffing on Harold Pinter's The Dumbwaiter, which in Bruges is basically the dumbwaiter for the first half of the movie, and then it turns into a Martin McDonagh flick.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it felt like he was really riffing on, he was riffing on writer's block and, like Billy said, adaptation, the idea of writing something that you just don't know how to approach it. He's also really tackling a similar idea to The Pillow Man, where storytelling is... Yeah, like storytelling is layered. Like in The Pillow Man, there's so many symbols that are laid out in the monologues and in the stories that come up to light in the real world of the play, as it were. And in this movie, it's totally the same thing. Like, several of the best twists for me were little bits of the story that I would not quite pick up. Like, I went Forrest like to rub it in that I didn't realize that Walken was the Quaker. Like, I did not realize that until the scene where Marty and him were talking at the bar, and he picked it out, like, as soon as he took off the kerchief in the hospital, and was like, dang it.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, he did,
Yeah. I should have seen it coming, because I'm used to McDonagh's work, but, like, seriously, this guy, like, I remember reading a review of his, and it was like a review from the New York Times about his Pillow Man, which was on stage at that point, and had Billy Crudup in the lead, and a couple other really great actors. I think, just, like, they said he was a born storyteller, and the more I see his work, the more he just is. He's just so gifted at the art of telling stories in a way that are both grotesque and fascinating. I love how he actually, for me, he used Marty a lot as a way to express his own opinions on things, like, I'm not entirely sure about an afterlife, but I write about it a lot.
Yeah, because he always puts Catholics in his stories.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And then, like, I remember there was one other point that he made that I thought was really cool. Oh, yeah, how he wanted to make a movie that, like, the character in the movie, Marty, wants to make a movie about psychopaths that isn't, like, a bloody psychopath movie. Mm-hmm. And, I thought that was just a great irony to the whole thing because it's like he, in his quest to get inspiration, basically causes some pretty bloody shit to go down,
Exactly.
and like that's McDonough for you. But it just shows that for him, it's not about the shock value, which I think is what separates him from a lot of other writers who try to like go out of their way and shock you. Like I saw Drive recently, and for me, Drive tried to do what In Bruges did, but didn't succeed. Like it's bloody, it's visceral, it's violent, but it just doesn't like. I didn't take anything away from it other than it's brutal, visceral, and violent, except for great performances. Like in this movie, I actually walked away and kind of like Billy, head spinning with all the different like things it was trying to say and things it was suggesting, and great one-liners too, because there's a lot of them in this movie. Holy crap, there were some great one-liners in this movie. The Italians have pizza, the French have cheese, and the Irish have alcoholism.
That was it. That was it.
that was a great line.
All right. All right.
Yeah. What about you? What do you take from the storytelling?
Well, I too noticed a lot about him like commenting on his own work, you see again, Marty, the character of Marty is essentially Martin McDonagh in the story. Just this he's a writer who has a lot of really gruesome ideas for stories, and some of them just come from random ideas. And he's like, there's this Vietnamese guy, and he has a hooker, and he's dressed up as a priest, and he has a snub-nosed revolver. And he's not even a priest. I just like the idea of a Vietnamese guy in a priest's garb with a snub-nosed revolver in a room with a hooker. And that's and if you, from what little I know of Martin McDonagh, that does seem to be the way some of his stories start out, with just an idea of something like that. But
he likes ethnic stereotypes.
He does like those. He writes them very well. But so this movie is almost, it's like, it's almost like Watchmen, the book, not the movie, the book, in that it's a movie with a straight narrative, but it will spiral off without warning into bizarre side stories, and you don't know where they connect. You know that all of this is in Marty's screenplay, because he's writing the screenplay throughout the film, and by the end of the movie, it's basically implied that the screenplay is the movie that you're watching. And so it's almost in this world where they're making the movie at the same time the movie is happening. To the point where at the end of the film has consequences beyond the end of the film. So when the film ends and the credits roll, earlier on in the film, Tom Waits' character ordered Colin Farrell to put a message at the end of his film. When the end of the film came, I was looking for that message, and it wasn't there. And it was like, wait a second, he didn't put the message there. That means, and suddenly the film cuts to Colin Farrell getting, like, in the middle of the credits, the film burns, and it cuts to Colin Farrell getting a phone call from Tom Waits. He's saying, "You didn't put my message at the end of your movie." And he's like, you promised your life on it. You know what that means. I'm going to have to kill you. I'm coming to kill you this Tuesday. He's like, okay, that's good. I'm not doing anything Tuesday. But it's Martin McDonagh. What you going to do? And so, like, there are all these different, like, little vignettes and stories that go into it. And I always wonder, like, it's such a bizarre thing, because it's never quite... You just have to sort of accept the screenplay is being written as the movie, and they're, like, discussing how to write the screenplay and putting all these scenes into it and putting all these other little short vignettes, and you're never quite sure. Like, I would love to have seen, like, jump inside this movie's universe and read the draft of the script that they're reading, because I don't know how any of these things fit together in his script, because he's, like, writing I mean you just kind of have to sort of assume that you're watching the movie as they write it.